Going to start recording. There we go. Welcome to the third general meeting for HCASF and UPD. Let's go ahead and get started. We have our thing, if I can get it going. Okay. 1 second. So thank you everybody for joining us today. It is our third general meeting. Okay, so quick thing about today's agenda. First up, we're going to review about who we are. If this is your first meeting, welcome. And then we're going to do a quick call and retrieve icebreaker game. It'll be kind of fun. And then upcoming events. And then we have our guest speaker, Leia Joaquin, who has a wonderful experience. And I'm really excited to hear her things. And then we're going to have a Q&A. Make sure that you get as much questions in as you need and as you want. We like nice, robust conversation with our speakers. So, and then we're going to be done for the day. So quick thing about HCASF, we do events like workshops, guest speakers like tonight, and we also do movie nights and fun stuff like that. We do networking. Specifically, we have our HCAN, which is our, after your graduation, you can join the Alumni Network, which is Healthcare Administration Alumni Network. There's an extra A. And then also we just have a community where we're friends and we hang out and we get to know each other because right now, things are tough and friends are good, right? And also really importantly, we do a lot of professional development, right? Because we all plan on entering the professional fields after this. So we're gonna play a quick call and retrieve game. This is just our icebreaker to get things started. Gabe, would you like to run this?
Yeah, so hi everybody. So thank you again for coming out and coming through to our third meeting. So for this icebreaker, it's gonna be a call and retrieve game like Taylor said. So basically the way it's gonna work is we're all gonna be put into breakout rooms, and in those breakout rooms, that's gonna be your team. And then within your team, you're gonna do some quick introductions just to get to know each other a little bit. And then we're all gonna head back to this lobby. And then the way the game is gonna work is I'm gonna list an item. So it can be any like random item you might have around your room. And so once I say it, you're supposed to go retrieve it and then come back and like show us what it is. And the way that we'll mark who came back first is the first person to type it in the chat. So whatever the item was, if you type in the chat first, then you can get your point for your team. So that's all that is really going down. We got a good amount of items. They vary. So hopefully you got some around. And so I think, Taylor, you have to make the breakout rooms. I don't think I have access to make them. So while she's doing that, in your breakout rooms, you're just gonna be introducing your name. And then the fun question is just gonna be, what is one class that you're dreading finals and why? Or the final project and why? And then also in your breakout rooms, you're gonna come up with a team name. So Brian's holding up an informatics book. I believe that's 416. Also dreading that class. That's okay. We're all gonna make it through. We're all gonna do great with each other's support. But yeah, while that's getting going, just for board members, remember to collect the names of who's in your group so that we can make sure we're managing the points. And then, yeah, good. So also, it'd be great if you could turn on your camera, join us so we can see your beautiful faces, and also so you can show us the item that you bring back. So yeah, when Taylor can open up the breakout rooms. There we go. So have fun with your groups and we'll see you soon.
Okay, so now that we are back, let me do some quick club reminders. Sorry, let me share my screen. And then we'll introduce our speaker for the evening. Okay, on the 18th, we do have a Jeopardy and peer networking event. That'll be kind of a more fun event. We're gonna play Jeopardy and then we're gonna talk about like what classes you're in. And so hopefully you'll find somebody who's going to be in a class that you're going to be in, and kind of connect and have that kind of a night where we're like, hey, let's prepare for this class. Specifically, if you're taking 341 next semester, you can prepare for it. And then on the 8th, we have our 4th and final general meeting for the semester. It'll just kind of be a LinkedIn workshop, a little bit more low key, not a speaker. It'll be just kind of a fun night for us to kind of learn with each other and be collaborative. So again, when I send out the newsletter, this information will be in there as well as posted on Beachboard, Instagram, etc. Okay. Membership dues, reminder that you do need membership dues prepaid. I sent out emails for HCASF. If you've already paid your membership dues, that will be sent out. The email has been sent out. I'll send out more as the semester goes along too. Okay. And finally, Discord and Instagram. Go ahead and download the Discord app and go ahead and add us on Discord as well as our Instagram. And finally, we have a student experience survey. We have
the link.
So this is actually going to go out to you guys. It's all like fill in the blank, like write-in questions. So write as much as you want. We really appreciate the feedback. We just kind of need a gauge as to how the semester is going for everybody. So go ahead and scan that QR code right now. Just put in your thoughts, your feelings. I'm going to send this link out again at the end from the newsletter. And there's the survey link right there. Don't forget to sign in before you leave. We'll send out the link for sign in a few more times. Make sure you get credit for today. Yeah, so we're just trying to get experiences going from distance learning, see how it's going to go, and then hopefully we can use that to learn something and improve for 2021. Okay, finally we have our guest speaker. And I'm so sorry, was your name Leia or Victoria? Because it says Victoria on your, is Joaquin?
There we go.
There you go.
All right. Hello, everyone. I wanted to thank everyone in advance for inviting me to join your group. It's actually an honor to be speaking to this generation. And so I've worked with the UCLA health group as well several years ago. And so it's nice to come back and to be able to join your community. So thank you for inviting me. So first and foremost, okay. So I wanted to, I prepared a very small PowerPoint, but I also wanted to keep this very open so you guys can ask me questions and kind of start a very open conversation with you guys, okay? So I guess I'll start just a little bit with my background and then you guys could continue to ask questions in between and stop me if I'm rambling on. So, and just in terms of, with everything happening with distance learning, I know you guys, I'm not sure where you guys all are in this point of your schooling, if you're in your last year, but I just want to commend you guys for just doing a great job during distance learning. I'm working with younger kids right now. My second career, third career, fourth career, if you will, I opened a learning center for kids just to give back to our community here in the South Bay. It's been so rewarding, and it came right around the January time. COVID hit in March, and then I transitioned and had to, as in every business, follow whatever the business world was, whatever was happening, you have to transition in. And, I'm now working with younger kids through distance learning and seeing how adaptable they are, and that it's not the best thing, but there's a lot to be said if you stay positive in terms of what you can learn, and so much people you can outreach to. Like tonight, we're all able to gather. So this is great. So is there anything in particular before I start? I know that Chloe might have sent you a little bit about my bio, but anything in particular that you guys might want to get from this evening?
So I think the best thing about having speakers in like this is to kind of understand the variety of backgrounds that that you can go into, the variety of different fields and experiences you can have launching from a point of healthcare administration.
Right.
So just talk about like your experiences and, you know, any positions that you've held, and just
Right.
talk about like your background, how you got there.
Perfect. Okay, wonderful. So, you know, I started at UCLA, and at UCLA, just as you guys probably going into it, they gear you into this road up. You're going to be a doctor, and you're going to be a dentist. You're going to go into biology, and those are your only avenues that you have is dentistry, doctor, pharmacist, and it was truly in working with, you know, doing some work in my college years that I learned that there's much more breadth in biology, much more breadth in research. There's much more breadth in healthcare. And I think having a job in college is very important. Having research, working and using your network now is going to be far more important for you than just saying, this is my target to operate a hospital, you know. And I always tell the young community, even when I'm hiring the kids now to work in the Learning Center and to work with us at AmeriCare, I always tell them, you got to crawl before you walk. You know, you have to slow and steady wins the race. Don't try to go out there right away and tackle things, because you won't really quite understand all the gaps in between. You know, you have to flip burgers before you own a restaurant. So you have to do every part of the small parts. I believe also in hip hop and listening to rap music, if you guys do, but always listen to Jay-Z and the front parts of his albums, and it will stay motivated. It'll keep you motivated. When you feel down, when you feel like the world is coming at you, listen to that stuff. And really, if that's going to feed your fuel, you guys have to always stay motivated, never peak, and never feel like this is where it ends. I reached this point, you know, there's nothing else to it. You know, I was born and raised on Guam, and I lived in the Bay Area, went to UCLA, and I learned, wow, there's this big world ahead of me. All I knew is that, you know, I was going to go into biology and become a doctor, you know. And when I started working, I started to do work with a doctor who was doing a healthcare, or actually going into gerontology. And he sent me into the field to work with seniors in small boarding care, in big hospitals, in skilled nursing facilities, and then in these little boarding cares. And at the time, this movie Patch Adams came out, and if you watch Patch Adams, you know, it's actually a very brilliant movie. It's going to be motivating to you. It made me realize, wow, I wanted to actually open my own hospital, but how do I do that? How do I go about it? So as I started to go into these boarding cares to interview patients or geriatric patients, I said, you know, this is something I could do, you know. So right out of college, but it's always, where do you start? How do you start, right? How do you start your own business when you're out of college? How do you even get a job? How do you even fundraise to get where we did? And truly, if your heart is in it, somehow build it and it will come, right? That saying is there. But I actually started working for a biotech company. So here I am on my way to, you know, try to go to medical school. I graduate, and I said, I'm going to take my gap year, and I'm just going to work, you know. So I actually knew I, you know, needed to just make a lot of money. And I was like, how I just need to fundraise and somehow make some money. So I looked into pharmaceutical sales in the beginning of this. And let me tell you guys, when you start applying in January, you're not going to get your first interview till about June. So if you really want to work after you graduate, you start now. You start looking into what you want to do, start tailoring every single resume. Beauty of the world now today is there is LinkedIn, but you really do have to still go out there and get it. And you have to go for it, right? So I was doing, you know, I worked for this biotech company, and I said, you know, I really want to start to do sales. So right out of college, I went to a biotech fair, and I actually looked up every single company that was going to be at the biotech fair, and I tailored every single resume to it. And I went to the fair, and this was like a just all sorts of technology. If you hear now these big words of PCR, that was all coming out. I had, you know, was very afraid of the technology, but I researched and learned just a little bit about all the technology. And I wrote my resume for every single company. And I walked up, you know, got my suit, you know, my little Ross suit at the time. And I went to this biotech fair, and I just put myself out there, and I had my resume, and I said, I want to work for your company. And they said, the first person told me at that fair, I need a sales rep. you know, I need a sales rep here in California. And I said, well, I could do that. And they said, I need a sales rep that's going to cover west of the Mississippi. Oh, I can do that too. So I was just open-minded and ready. So when I realized that was a keyword for him, I went to the next place and I said, I'm interested in a sales job with your company. He said, oh, you know, that was okay. So anyways, I probably talked to about 50 companies. And the next day I got a phone call and they sent me out to Philadelphia. And at the time, here I am, this, you know, not knowing, I was just out of college. Again, my little raw suit, go out to Philadelphia. And I was, lo and behold, going to this sales meeting with about 10 people, this Asian girl. And, you know, I was the first one female person that they were interviewing. And secondly, I was Asian, I was Filipino. And so that was already you know, I came out there like, oh, you look like Mulan. So there was battles already that I was facing at the time. So I go to the interview and anyways, put yourself out there. I get the job, any job at that point. And it was a wonderful experience to go into sales. I think that's, if you guys are interested in learning more about that, that really did help me in my business world now. Everything that you're going to do in health administration and in running a business has to start from knowing how to be comfortable in your own skin and to sell what you're going to be, you know, producing out there. Okay, so I think that's if you're ever looking for a world, start in sales. Get a job in sales, whether it's at T-Mobile or whether it's anywhere, just go into sales at some point of your career. When I say, you know, go flip burgers first, it's that same thing. Sales is going to give you the best background in marketing from a small standpoint and from a large standpoint, right? What is business to business and what is business to customer? So that taught me a lot. And from that experience, I was able to slow and steady, gain capital, and of course, right paths, go into my dream. You know, it took me probably 2 or 3 years to actually build the first AmeriCare. So what is AmeriCare? AmeriCare is a 6-bed, or is a 42-bed operation at this point, but I operate 7 small 6-bed senior care homes in the South Bay. And I went into senior care in particular because I had a passion for working with seniors. When I worked for that doctor I was telling you about in the beginning, he sent me to these large hospitals to interview seniors, and I always had a passion to work with the older community. I worked with young children, and it was a wonderful experience. It was just hard to come home every day and see, you know, children sick all day, you know. So when I started to work with seniors, I realized that, you know, just being there in that time of their life, you know, hey, these aren't people who were in a car accident. These are people who are very happy and contented with their life. And I enjoy that. I enjoy working with people who are fulfilled. There was a lot to be learned. Until this day, I still work with I go into my homes and I work with every single senior, and it touches me. And I think that's what keeps me going, keeps me motivated to do what I'm doing. But when building our very first home, it took me 2-3 years. And every single capital that I made from my little biotech job went back into starting this business. And there was times where I felt like this is where the road stopped. You know, I was with my husband at the time, my boyfriend, and I was telling him about what I wanted to do. And he was like, we just got to go and do it, you know? And there was a lot of roads that we hit, and somehow, yeah, you just have to keep going for it. If you feel like you're going to stop, it's going to stop, right? But you feel like I'm going to keep tackling this dream. You keep hearing that, like, yeah, in the music industry, you keep hearing that in anything where people are building something. It's the same thing with when you're starting your own company in the healthcare industry. But I took my little biotech job and all the commissions that I made and started rolling it back into this business. So now AmeriCare has been operating for 19 years, and we've over 150 seniors in the South Bay. I have, helped to manage over 100 plus employees, and watch their children grow and watch them send their children off to college. And that motivates me and that keeps me going. So in my time at AmeriCare, I have seen multiple different aspects of healthcare. I've seen insurances, I've seen seniors and patients in my population that I'm working with start to age, when you hear that seniors is the largest growing population, it truly is. My average mean 20 years ago, my seniors were 86. Now my average mean is 96. And I have patients who are 105. And I have, who, are wondering when am I going to die? And it's like, I've seen that industry change. And now here we are in COVID. And fast forward to March, rewind, I guess, to March, it was very scary being a business owner and owning my own nursing home in this day and age of COVID. But again, I had to adapt. I had to change. I had to make adjustments. You feel out everything and slow and steady. You just have to keep on feeling things out. And of course, a lot of it too is, you say that, hearing that luck, prayer, you got to have faith, you got to have motivation. That's all in there. Everything, everything encompassed in there. But I guess you just keep on going, right? So I guess my biggest advice to you guys now, and I'm going to show you some slides of where to start, is don't just stick to one area. LinkedIn, I think, is a good place to just leave it out there. But again, when I say that when you're starting in any industry, you have to go directly to whichever companies you're targeting or into that industry that you're targeting specifically. And you have to look up their, I'm sure you guys know this, but you have to go into their career worlds, maybe know a person in there and hand walk your resume and have that hand walked in or, emailed to the next person. But you can't just wait for LinkedIn to happen or people to find you on there. It's wonderful thought, but really to truly get the position or something that you want in particular, you have to go in that avenue to find it. Okay. Now I see people in scrubs, so it's nice to see that some of you guys are already working, because that's important. That out of college, you can't have your first job out of college. I tell you, when I start interviewing people, I'm like, oh, I've never worked before, and they want to start, working as an administrator for us. It doesn't really work, because they have to understand, again, what each role has done or what the organization is about, from that personal heart level. Like, you can go up to somebody, a caregiver, and say, I understand what your job is day in and day out, to do that ground level work to help a senior. But then you have to also understand what the administrator is doing to manage the organization, look at a budget, and also look at where are we going to get clients, how does that happen? So you have to know all aspects and how to work with them. And you'll learn in working in general, it's working with other people. Half of the time that you guys are out there, you just have to learn to work with everybody, and also put a smile on your face every day and say, that I love what you just did. I would have done that the same way too, when you're thinking in your head, what in the, but you have to be politically know where to put yourself and how to manage people. So do you guys have, I'm just rambling here. Do you guys have any questions? No. Do you guys kind of, let me, I guess, go into this, but do you guys know what RCFE is? Are you familiar with what that is? And before let me go further. Yeah.
You went over a bunch of different topics. I think the sales, the first career that you had in sales, how do you think you were able to get that opportunity? Like, what sets you apart? Because so many people interview for a sales position at a biotech firm. So.
Right. And I bring up that, I bring up those small little, twerky disadvantages, if you will, at the time that I was out there, just to put it out there for you guys to know that you guys might personally feel or have your feeling of like, I'm not good enough, or something is not, I'm not fit for this role. But if you really do feel inside your heart, like this is meant for me, something in you will lead you to do it. You're going to go to many different interviews, but if you really feel like this is something I'm going to do, you're going to have a heart for it. My first interview, actually, you guys, I got the job, which was surprising, but I was on this airplane again to Philadelphia, and I was researching PCR. At the time, it was just a few steps of this just DNA Xerox copy machine at the time. Now, obviously, there's real-time PCR we're using to find COVID, but at the time there was, it was a patent that was holding it, and the world of PCR was just starting out, and many different companies were trying to go into it, but they were trying to forego or go over this hump of this patent of this one guy who owned the PCR patent. So I was scared at the time of just learning the technology, because to be honest with you, I got a B- in molecular biology, and I was really not like, there were so many students in my class who were really smart, and I had to go and talk to these professors, and so it was quite intimidating. But I knew that I wanted to be a part of that business to business world. When I started learning, at first I started to research pharmaceutical sales. And what caught my eye, of course, for many of you, is the money, right? So if you research right now, pharmaceutical sales or any sales position, you're going to see $80,000 to $200,000 with a daily stipend of X and X, with a car, with an allowance for food, with, just depending on which territory that you're going to manage. So of course, when I started researching that, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to make a lot of money, right? So, but you have to really go deeper. I do encourage you guys to look up sales and look up what opportunities are out there, especially in this day and age of COVID. If you guys are truly looking for a job, you're going to have to look at working remotely, and outside sales is a fantastic way to go about it. Fantastic way to make money, and fantastic way to be in that business world and still be in the healthcare world. And I'll tell you right now, you guys are in a good position. There's not a lot of people, not a lot of scientists or healthcare people who can also talk business. So if you guys are looking to go into that business world, really put yourself, give yourself that credit, that if you even know a little bit about business and putting that out there to the company that you're going to be working for, that I am a person, I am a personable person. I can put myself out there. You're going to be more likely to have a second interview. Okay, so I think, but I'm in the end of this, I'll give you guys some resources to start to look up headhunters. But again, sales is a wonderful, outside sales, look it up, just, healthcare outside sales. You could sell insurances, you could be selling, of course, pharmaceutical drugs, Merck, you're going to hear the Pfizer's, and right now there's vaccines, different types of vaccines. I'm sure there's going to be a world of, as soon as COVID hit, I was like, oh my gosh. And I told my husband, I want to look into just what's happening in the biotech world. I was so fascinated with everything that was happening in PCR and how well it was moving. I just wanted to go back into it because I loved doing sales. So yeah, at some point, right now we are in this COVID world, so you are going to have to be a little bit creative about going into the sales world. But I just researched it very briefly before we started talking here, into the biotech showcases and biotech fairs and healthcare fairs, and it looks like it is going to happen safely in 2021. And when I started to do these fairs and look into it, my first fair that I went to happened to be at UCLA. But if you look at it, there's actually fairs in New Orleans, there's fairs in San Francisco, there's fairs in San Diego. Phoenix, Arizona has a big hub for that right now too. So actually there's so much happening in technology, so much happening in research that I see, and everything that I'm looking at, there are jobs out there. I think your biggest question is, what am I doing all this for? Why am I in college? Are there jobs out there? Yes, there are, but you guys have to be smart and you have to do things a little bit different. And again, just reading a little bit more about a business to business world and diversifying yourself. So you guys have the background in healthcare, you have the background in, you're going to school specifically in a certain idea, but have that growth mindset to look at the business world, and to look at, what is that? What is outside sales? What is an outside rep? And how can you work remotely? How can you work from Hawaii and still be able to talk to a professor in New York? Because that's what's actually happening right now in the biotech world. So, and there's a lot of, money to be made right now in biotech. So, yes.
I was going to ask you about, so you were talking about like tailoring your resume to the job, right? So what research do you do in order to find what like you want to tailor your resume to? Like how do you do that research?
So I think you have to start somewhere, right? So I think you guys know, like right now, even if you look up what's happening in the vaccine. So like yesterday, I'm fascinated by it. I'm like, oh, what is this vaccine, right? So three things came up to my head was, how did they make the vaccine? Who's going to be selling the vaccine? Which is like ding, 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 you know, ching, 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 right? But even before you get who's going to be selling this vaccine and where are they going to be selling it to, there's government, you know, you can sell it to government, you can send it to clinical, you can send it to diagnostics. I was looking at 5 steps before that. What type of technology does it take to make it? You know, where is it coming from? And actually, you'll be surprised, these PCR machines that they're using are in Germany right now. So the research, the big, you know, Pfizer that is developing this was out of Germany. Fast forward over to Boston, they, you know, obviously they have a lot of, you know, the human genome and everything being, just so much being shared throughout the internet. But there's so much before it gets to the drug being sold of business transactions that are happening behind it. So if you just start somewhere, start from Pfizer and this new drug that's coming out and the technology before that, and then stick yourself wherever you feel like, I want to look more into this. Call up that company. Hi, I'm looking, you know, I'm interested in being a sales rep for you. Hi, I'm looking at being your sales rep for you. Hi, I'm being, you know, you have to hit, again, throw 50 darts before one's going to stick, right? That's that saying. It's true, you guys. You can't just say, okay, I want to work for this one company. That's how it's, yeah, that's how it's going to be. You know, I've, again, found this company in Philadelphia. And, you know, from there, it was like so many different companies. After I did well with that one company, then they started looking for me. Then your LinkedIn makes sense. Then your LinkedIn is working. But your LinkedIn right now is not working until you go out there and find it. And then once you're successful, once you are top rep number 10 of the year, you're making them $2-3 million, they're going to find you, you know, so you'll be marketable naturally. And people, the companies know which sales reps are out there from that pharma group. And then again, you know, that pharmaceutical sales was one thing, but the biotech sales in between, that's what I loved. And, you know, I liked that technology. I liked all the research that was happening before that. So there's many different avenues that you can go into, but right now with the internet at your hands, God, it's like, it's beautiful, it's wonderful to see that, you know. But again, I'm going to give you a few resources and a few headhunters to look at. But if you just right now Google headhunter biotech outside sales, it's like so much is going to populate out of that, and just keep applying and then if it's like you see Pfizer, you see Merck, you see, you know, AstraZeneca, you see all these little companies, look up what their specialty is, look what they do in the process. One keyword, 1 or 2, 3 words, and then make yourself a specialist out of it. You know, and I remember going to Horsham, Pennsylvania, again, not knowing what PCR is. And now I can't remember not knowing about it. All this stuff is just like language, right? You're intimidated by it. But now I don't not know, remember when I didn't know about it. Does that make sense? Like, yeah.
To chime in, I'm Leia's husband and partner, by the way. But to answer this question, my background's not healthcare. My background's finance and economics. But to answer your question, be specific. We do a lot of hiring of different individuals, you know, from straight out of college and some with experience. But the point is be specific. Whether you're going to apply to 10 different companies or one, make your resume or make your interview very specific to that company. I think that's what Leia's trying to get at. Don't have such a broad resume that encompasses everything, because people that are looking at 20, 30, 50, 100 resumes a day are going to know that you didn't spend time. You were generic in your resume and you sent it in. Know something about the companies you're really applying to. Be specific to that. If you're applying to a company like biotech sales, understand what it is their products are. If you're, let's say, applying to Pfizer today, you know they just got approval. Be specific to that. I'm interested in this. I want to do this. I like your company because of that. And don't be generic. And when you put your resumes together, be professional about it. Don't have your, you know, me having fun at yahoo.com email or whatever it is. Have a professional email. Don't make it look like an Instagram hashtag account. Just, these are business people. These are businesses. They don't care. They just want the best person there. So be specific to it. And
he brings a good point, because I think there's a lot of young people who are applying with hashtags on their resumes, and you're applying to a person like myself who's in their 40s who, like, I mean, we know about that stuff, but it's not cute, you know. It's like, so he's right. We do get a lot of new straight out of college, and we could see their resumes and how serious they are right away, you know, about the
we review your resume. We get a lot of resumes that are 4 pages long, that, or, you know, multiple pages long. I hate to break it to some of the people, but nobody cares you played football in junior high. or you were such and such Boy Scout or whatever. Just be specific to the job, keep it at a page, or have somebody at the Career Center review it just to see what's going to apply to that. Because a lot of the times, you know, believe it or not, they're going to read the first 3-4 lines and they're throwing that thing away if you don't catch their interest, because they got to go through a pile and piles every single day. So make it, and when you're there, if you do land the interview, make that interview count. Don't be wishy-washy. When you go in there, act like this is the dream job you have always wanted in your life. It doesn't matter if you're thinking in 2 years you're going to go to graduate school or whatever it is you're going to do. You know, if you go in that with that mentality, they're looking right past you from the get-go. So just, you know, act like you really want the position. You've researched the company. You know what the company is about. You know why you want to be a part of that company. And even more so, what's impressive is why you want to help that company and what you can bring to that company. If it's always just about me, what can I get from the company? You're not going to stand out. But if you can come in there and say, this is what I can offer you, this is why I believe I can be a great contribution or contributor to your company, then you stand out a little bit more. Then it's a two-way road. You're going to benefit them, they're going to benefit you.
I think Anthony brings up a good point, because we know that the kids who are applying right out of college, obviously you're not going to have 10 years experience in sales, or you're not going to have you didn't make a company $1 million in, you know, last year. So you're not going to have those specific things on your resume. But I think just tailoring and maybe looking up resumes specifically for that particular job, let's say looking at outside sales and looking at those keywords that, you know, in that goals portion, I'm looking to manage a territory as large as the state of California, all the way up to, you know, up to Seattle. I'm, you know, able to fly 50% of the time. I'm able to travel. I like travel, you know, I like to travel globally, you know, anything that tailors to that particular job. So, you know, we're going to know that you're clearly not, you know, you speak a certain language, put those things out there, or that you understand that the job is to make a goal of $2 million. Say I will work at assuring and finding all the different companies I need to work with in order to hit that $2 million goal. So, you know, I think also one thing out of college, or one thing when we start interviewing new college graduates, is that setting an expectation for yourself. A lot of the college graduates we meet, they're like, yeah, you know, what's your goal? In 5 years, I'd like to make $500,000. And it's like, good luck with that. You know, really yourself and really say, you know, no job is too small right now. You know, I want to just have experience in that position. You know, you got to start, again, you got to crawl before you walk. You have to start somewhere. And I notice a lot of people right out of college, maybe it's that instant gratification of like, you know, everything is so accessible and easy, and you start seeing these stories all over, you know, the internet and Instagram, you know, but even starting and taking that $30,000 sales job initially, you know, and then exceeding it to, you know, maybe make $1 million, you know, whatever you're going to make above that, small things start happening every single year. You know, things start growing and changing for you. And I keep talking about this sales position for you guys, because it's a good place to start in this world of COVID. It's hard to, you know, and it's scary to go into, let's say, a nursing home right now and say, I want to be your administrator. They're not going to probably look at you right out of college. You know, they're probably going to look at the nurse who was working there for the last 10 years, you know, who understands all the patients, who understands how the janitor is working, how the custodians are working with the cooks, and that's how the health administrators are truly, honestly going to be picked. You know, how is the, you know, person who manages the hospital, they're probably going to be picking along those lines. So it's a good place to start. It's a good place to put yourself out there to learn about business quickly, I should say. And again, in this new day and age, you know, outside sales is like, that was my best experience to share with students right out of college, and giving them advice right now. I've actually probably helped over a dozen people just getting into the sales world and saying, okay, these are the companies you want to look at. And this is, you know, maybe you're only hearing this on the internet, but let's go look at, let's say, Bio-Rad. Let's go look at, you guys are doing worked in a lab. Look at all those little names on those, you know, electrophoresis things, life science, you know, you're seeing all those pipettes. Who sells those pipettes? Who sells those electrophoresis? Who sells those power supplies? You know, who sells any class that you're taking, any of those medical supplies, if you go into the hospital and now I'm just like triggered and I'm just wired that way. But I gave birth and I'm looking at all the medical equipment and naming all the brands. And I'm like, oh, I wonder who sells this. I wonder which rep is doing this. And it becomes just in the back of your head, like there is a business behind every single brand that you see, so they need somebody to go out there right now. So that's why I say it's a good place to start. I guess in backing up into AmeriCare and what we do now, I did sales for 10 years simultaneous to starting our business. It didn't happen overnight, you guys. We put a lot of money into starting it. And then there was a lot of things that happened in between that was testing us. That was the road that and even till now, you start, thinking that it looks great, but there's so many different aspects that you have to always constantly adapt and change yourself to. So, it's nice in that now our children are involved and getting to see and work with seniors and getting to maybe see how we manage people, understand how we work with our employees. So it's nice to have that business that we're sort of carrying through into the next generation to see. So that's very rewarding. And people probably look and say, oh, it was just there. I'll try that. But it was a lot of work to get there and just stay motivated again to get there. So does anybody have any questions? I feel like we're just talking here.
I was actually curious what kind of like soft skills that anybody can really have are you looking for in recent graduates coming out of college?
I like that actually, because I have tutors here in our learning center now, and the nice part about us building this learning center in the midst of COVID is we have people who went to UC Davis and people who are at UC Merced and UC Riverside who are tutoring with us now. There's this one gentleman who I didn't realize he was 20 years old. He just was very, the way he poses himself, and he's just ready, available, always on time. He's just, able to talk to the students, able to talk to their parents, able to talk to me, just extremely personable. I read these books of how to interview and then what's the response back, and always have that one story to tell. He always seems to have that understandability, that likability, and that relatability, I guess, to others, and just being able to relate very humbly to people is always a nice position to put yourself in, so and always have that in there that, again, you're ready to just try something new and you're ready to adapt. I see also some other, people that we've hired who okay, I was only hired to work 40 hours. At that 41 hours, they're like, you could see them looking at the clock. You could see them like, okay, I was only supposed to be here until 5:15. They're like, I'm supposed to be out of here. That could, you should probably prioritize, where you need to be and what you need to do if you really want to have that experience working anywhere, so.
And I think for the healthcare industry, just that, I think you hit it on the head there, just that soft skill, not coming in so rigid, not coming in so hard. You guys are dealing with healthcare and lives, and in the nursing homes, we see that if someone comes in so rigid and so, such a certain way, it's my way or the highway, it's tough. You're dealing with a lot of people's emotions, especially at a time like now. So I think someone that can have those soft skills and really be able to solve the situation, and no matter which path you guys take in your field, you're going to deal with a lot of conflict, a lot of situations where you're making decisions that affect someone's life, day-to-day life, that you really have to understand and look at it from the other person's perspective as well, and just know how to mediate. And I think if you can relay that to the employer, the person you're interviewing with, or even when you get the job, that you're a problem solver and you're a helper, I think that's going to go a long way in this field.
I guess also another thing, one of the last things I do want to share with you guys is we have also a lot of friends who have a lot of kids and they're the forever student situation, right? If you guys are looking to go back into school, before you go back into school, take that time off to work and to go into the field that you're looking to go into, or even work at whatever, you know, any job, you know, before you start to go back to school. And going back to school in these days, especially with time, you know, with just, again, with COVID and with everything, how the world is changing, really be, you know, a lot of people who went to business school, we see a lot of people right out of business school, a lot of friends of ours, and they're still having a hard time finding a job. And it's not so much going back to school as much as what are you going to do with your degree going back to school. I think it's the safest way is like, naturally, let me just go back to school. We see this big increase of people going back to school, but when they come out, the expectation is still where they left off before they went back to school, you know. So really look at what you want to do, and there's a lot that you could do right out of school right now, you know, and don't forget that. Don't try to look so far ahead and like, oh, I'm just getting ready to go back to school to B school or leadership program or whatever extra programs that you know you could go into. Frankly, as an employer, we don't look at, oh, this person got their master's in public health, oh, this person looked at they got their master's in leadership, they got their MBA. We just look at their experience. I just look at, oh, wow, she worked 10 years here and sales experience here and this and that. Actually, Anthony, my husband, runs the other side where he does construction and real estate and has built Din Tai Fung and big restaurants. And so has to deal with a lot of, you know, young kids who are wanting to be contractors. And same thing, it's like, it's that same, your experience means much more than you having XX, you know, I went to this workshop and this workshop and this workshop. It's just my experience here and my success working at this place. And it could be that you worked at this learning center, but this is what I got out of it. And therefore this is what I want to do next, you know? So really look into, I got to find a job and make that encompass what I want to do next.
And that's a good point, Leah. Sorry to chime in again.
I like it.
After your first job, essentially, GPA and school matters very little. And the finance world, I went to Santa Barbara and it mattered, you know, to a certain extent when I went to a big 5 firm and all that stuff. But after that first, just here's your GPA and you got your foot in the door and here's where you went to school, the further you get from graduating, the less and less it matters, because now graduating it's like a draft pick, you know, in sports. What they see you do in college is they're trying to predict how you're going to do in the work world. But once you're in the work world, they know how you're going to do in the work world based on speaking to your supervisors, your previous employer, all that stuff. So they rarely, once that first job is done, they rarely ask you about your GPA or where you went to school or anything like that. They just want to know what you did, where you worked, what your experience was, and how your bosses liked you or the people you reported to. So that's one thing. If you did well in school, great. If you're kind of just, you know, making it, don't worry. Just get that job, and once there, prove yourself, you know.
Unless you're going to like nursing school, PT school, just be careful about going back to school, because your expectation, you're going to spend another $100,000 and then maybe come back out and not be as like happy with taking that next step, you know. So I guess also one last, I'm going to just share one slide with you guys before I leave, and just to give you an idea of what to look up maybe when we're done here. You're sharing. Can you guys see my screen? Oh, there.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So these are a few of the, you know, again, I said your LinkedIn versus going into a biotech showcase or going into a health fair. At your point, you guys, LinkedIn is great, but it's not, because, and don't get, you really have to really get that in your heads, you guys. If you don't have that experience, you know, they're not looking for you yet. You know what I mean? They're going to like what you do at school, but you really have to be out there. So that's why I said, spend your time going to these biotech showcases. Look up biotech showcase, look up healthcare fair. And it doesn't have to be healthcare job fair, biotech job showcase. It's just companies in front of you, multiple 20, 30, hundreds, 200, 300 companies together. That's, you know, you guys have to be smart about that. That's already, there's not going to be 20 people handing out resumes at a showcase. They're just trying this, here's the sales rep trying to sell their product. But if you come up to them and you're likable, they're probably going to tell their manager, hey, I met this guy at the showcase and there's his resume, then there it is, you know. But that's why I unless you're specifically looking for jobs and going into LinkedIn, made through LinkedIn, but right now we put on LinkedIn, what we're looking for a tutor, we got, you know, gosh, 30 emails in one day. So it's hard to go through that. If somebody walked into our door and said, I want to be a tutor and I'm here, that's probably going to stick out a little more for me than the LinkedIns that are coming in. So that's why I say, look at these fairs, look at these showcases, because that's the time you're going to have an audience of 200 people. So your probability of throwing your darts in that one day is going to be great. I looked into it briefly, and 2021 has a lot of fairs coming up. I think everybody's excited to put their products out there. The biotech world is huge right now. So, you know, even I'm not sure what everybody's major is right now, but just being in healthcare can take you somewhere right now. So there are jobs out there, you guys. It's just be smart about it and know where to place yourself and know how to be smart about getting a job. And the goal is the goal is just get a job, just get into the company anywhere. And once you're in there, you know, I had a cousin who worked for 3M as the person just making sure that the 3M tape, you know, was good. And therefore then from there, she was just in R&D or just making sure that was good. Worked her way up to the research, worked her way up to management, worked her way now is just like one of the big heads of her group and is managing over, you know, 40 people in a small group. So just get into the company, you know, and then I think you could go left, right, sideways into it, you know, but be creative about how you're going to put yourself out there. And the online things are great, but it's nothing like being in front of people. So next year, I think you guys, there's a lot out there. I personally even started just looking at it just to look at it because it's so fascinating to me. And I also put myself, I try to look out for the young kids that we're working with to say, you know, this is what I saw. I still get these headhunters sending me things, and I like sending it to people like, oh my gosh, this is if you're looking at moving to New York, if you're looking at moving to, you know, North Carolina, which is another big, you know, healthcare place, and Arizona, you know, these jobs are out there, and it starts at $50,000, but they give you a car and they give you this and this and this, and you know, and there's a base, you know, that's your base. You're probably gonna make $100,000 next year. So it may start small, but there's opportunity. If you see that little bit of opportunity, believe in it because it will fruition into something. So just be creative with look beyond the LinkedIn. Okay, so do you guys have any questions for me or Anthony? And both our worlds, you know, Anthony, he helped me start AmeriCare. He believed in it when I first started going into it, but he used to throw concerts with like Snoop Dogg back in the day. And one day he, you know, so he was just a business kind of guy. And so he really was like, you know, if your heart's into it, let's do this. And again, started doing real estate construction. So he has a different avenue. And together we work well. So, you know, I also, with that said, you guys, your generation 2, have good partnerships, surround yourself around good people, good energy. I saw this saying once that said, you know, when you meet somebody, you know, not that you want to be with them forever, you know, the ones that you don't want to be with forever, right? So always surround yourself around positive people and good people. You know, when things stop, you know, this COVID thing stops, those like nice Tony Robbins things to go to, they're always great to just keep you motivated. Whatever you guys decide to do, stay motivated, keep going. Right now, on your free time, listen to some podcasts, some free podcasts on self-motivation and how to keep going in this day and age of COVID, you know, because that's going to reflect in how you start talking to people. You know, when you're negative about doing school on Zoom, or, you know, it comes out, but, you know, we see people who are staying positive and it just, their light is so good that you just want to be around them, you know, so always have that good energy too. So.
I was going to ask you about starting your senior homes. Yeah. I was just going to add, like, I'm taking a gerontology class right now, and we're talking a lot about senior living, and purely there's going to be way more seniors than there are now, and just going to keep increasing. I was going to ask you, what do you think about how that field of healthcare is going to change as we go forward? Like, how do you see that sector changing, and how do you think we can prepare for that?
It's definitely a growing industry, and we have seen many different industries change over the last 2 decades. I think that we have been doing business. We've seen our other businesses that we have going change, But I tell you, our senior industry has been one of the most stable things that I've ever done and we've ever seen. You know, we have had to tailor ourselves personally in our business to accommodate what's happening in the changes. And you know, the study that I was working with the doctor was actually based on this drug called Seroquel. It's this serotonin inhibitor, and it stays in your body a lot longer than, let's say, an Ativan, which is like what they call 3 shots of vodka for a senior. So I went into these, you know, hospitals, nursing homes, and I studied the molecular biology sides of what was happening, you know, with these seniors. And the study was only supposed to show the drug going into 7 years, and now it's 25 years later that they've been using this drug, and you know, there's the efficiency of this drug is like 10 years after that they say, you know, get the senior off it and let's see what happens. So, you know, yes, the industry is changing, but there's many things I've seen, even many multiple businesses coming out of it. Again, we are the boarding care, so we are RCFE is what we're called, residential care facility for the elderly. In fact, you can drive around a neighborhood, more than likely that's business that we operate. We do the senior side. There's also, I guess, for the developmentally disabled. There's also, you'll see even for alcoholics type situations. So you'll see many different residential homes, but in the state of California, you have to have X amount of these care homes in these residential areas. And you probably don't even realize or didn't even see it, but they're also owned by small business owners, right? But they are regulated by the state. And they have grown into this industry. So this is what we do. And now from this, I've seen, let's say, the home healthcare agencies start to expand. So they are, let's say, a business that outsources physical therapists. So you don't have to hire the physical therapist, but you can outsource a physical therapist, a nurse, and you know, a doctor. So now this is the home health agency. Now we have referral agencies. So they go into the hospitals and then they, you know, cahoots with the social workers, and then they start sending patients our way or sending patients, and then they have these big referral agencies now. You might look it up, you know, you'll see maybe commercials for mom.com and, you know, care.com. Those are, in the end of the day, they don't really have like a product that they're selling a service, right? So there's multiple different types of businesses that have come out since, even in my time that I've seen, you know, the senior industry. You'll see people who just outsource caregivers, you know, so you are just this shell, and then you just, you know, network to know families who are looking for caregivers, and then you network to meet caregivers. So you don't even have to have a home and a business to start with. You can almost have just a brilliant idea to start selling out to me or to seniors or to people in that industry. But, you know, Taylor, I have to say that I started going to look into getting my master's in gerontology. And I remember, so I started this whole thing at Cal State LA, and I took this class in death and dying. That was like the first subject. And I went there like the first week. And I started experiencing, I was 23 years old, and we were running our nursing home for about 3 months. And I started to experience my first person dying. And so I thought, like, oh my gosh, perfect timing. I'm taking this class in death and dying. I'm going to learn how to deal with this. And I was so scared because this person was living in my house. You know, oh my gosh, I must have done something because now she's dying. And like, you know, obviously she was passing away from dementia. She had dementia for 10 years. I called the hospice company, which is another part of the business aspects, but I called the hospice company and I said, I think she's passing away. I could tell her breathing was changing. Maybe that was the one thing I did learn from that class, but I started to see it getting heavier and heavier. Hospice person came over and they said, okay, she's going to be passing away in 2 hours. So I was able to coordinate the family to come over, and the family came and they popped open a bottle of wine and they started celebrating. And here I am in the living room freaking out, like, oh my gosh, my patient's about to die. I'm like, you know, and there was only so much that class in the end of it all taught me before I realized I had to experience that. You know, I had to experience what is death and dying. There was nothing that I ever read that could, you know, it's kind of like when I gave birth and I went to every single Lamaze possible, my husband and I, and we were just that young couple and we're learning the breathing. You know, when you give birth, it doesn't happen that way, okay? just like you just push and just, right? Baby, it's that same experience, you guys. You only can prepare so much, but you really have to go out there and be a part of it to really experience that. But you know, just go into any aspect of senior care and work with seniors, even if it's even call me and volunteer. Well, you can't volunteer now in the world of COVID, but just, you know, when it things open up, just really put yourself out there as a volunteer, go into these skilled nursing facilities, maybe just work as an aide and really see how they are, you know, how what is dementia. And that is what's probably the biggest cause for this community changing, you know, and people always ask me, like, as if I'm, you know, God going to say, okay, how much longer does my mom and dad have? And I'm like, clearly I'm not your medical doctor, but already I know from my experience, you know what, this person has dementia that's been going on for 10 years. Probably what's going to happen is their throat is going to shrink. They're no longer going to want to eat. And that happens sort of overnight, you know, and I kind of can tell when they're like, oh, my mom only wants to eat ice cream, that those are things that I can already say, oh, their swallow is starting to change. They're no longer liking the texture of food, therefore, you know, and then, or they can say, you know, I'm just putting food in my mom's mouth and it's falling out. Then I could say they're starting to aspirate. So you only develop that reaction by experience. So no matter what school teaches you, you guys got to go out there, even as a volunteer, even working. And, you know, I think one of the quickest things you could do is maybe even just get that CPR EMT type license, just to like go into the field right away, just to experience working with patients. I think that's a good way to just start working with seniors. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Did you want me to send these slides out to our members?
I mean, this is, it's just really, I really have this one slide again, just to you know, share with you guys in terms of, you know, in terms of that there are opportunities out there and you guys have to be creative. And it's just a start. I mean, hopefully you guys took some notes to just know what to Google, and Google to your particular, I mean, I could send you, you know, I'll give you my email, and really at any point, if you guys just even want us to read your resume, I'm happy to do that. I'm just happy to help your generation and help people and really help, you know, you guys have a place to start. Even if you want a few headhunters' names, I'll be happy to give that to you guys, and just hear more about experience, you know, or just share whatever, you know, you guys are going through. Send us a quick email. Anthony, I'm sure too, is very open to it. We're at this point in our, you know, we opened a learning center. We want to help people. We want to help all students. And so please use us as a resource even after this talk. We're making ourselves available for you guys. We are just supporters for your, you know, hopefully one day you're going to go back and help the community and give back as well. Pay it forward. And that's all we want to do with you guys as well. So more than just today and whatever you might have taken out of this talk, out of me rambling here, just know that you can call me anytime. You can call my husband, you know, if it's me, if you want to talk to Anthony as well, we're here to just advise you guys and guide you guys. And those small little advices that we had along the way, you know, I listened, you know, and you know what, actually working with seniors, the biggest gain I got was just listening to them. We've met so many seniors along the way. I met the R and the TRW. I met, you know, the guy who started up straws, and just, you know, the guy who started up the ATM, and hearing their journeys and the small little things that they would say that just stuck in my head. Like I told you that slow and steady wins the race. One, you know, a 90-year-old man who, again, who started the straw company, who started straws in general, told me that one day. And, you know, I thought, you know, he told me, don't try to tackle the world so quickly because you're going to fall. You know, you're not going, you have to see it from the middle. You have to climb up those stairs, because if you just jump on top, you're going to miss everything in between. And that made so much sense when I tried to just get there. And it was frustrating when you were just trying to get there, you know, but when we started to really just slow and steady, it really started to fall into place and make sense. So those words hold true. If there's one thing I'm going to tell you today, it's just, don't stress out. Don't try to get there so quickly, and don't try to go and fall back to school. Just work, get out there.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming to talk to us today. This has been really beneficial for me. It's always so good to listen to people who have been there, right? Who you know, who have some sort of, you know, foresight, right, into the world that I'm going to enter. So thank you again so much for joining us. We all really appreciate it. If you would like, if you send any information to Chloe and she can send it to us, I'll send out I send out a newsletter after each of our meetings. Thank you so much for.
I'll give you guys, I'll send you guys, she has my email, I'll send you her my email and more than my email and my phone number. So just that if you guys ever need to just throw something out there, I'd be happy to do that. Okay, so.
Thank you so much.
All right, okay guys. So we're gonna leave so that way you guys could powwow and enjoy the rest of your meeting. And I look forward to hearing from any of you guys, okay? Please take my offer at some point, okay? And I'm proud of all of you guys. Stay positive. The next 8 to 12 weeks from everything I'm hearing from public health, to be honest, is going to be just, you're gonna hear all sorts of stuff on the news and you know, if you really want to know what's going on with COVID, probably call your local hospital and you could ask any social worker how many, you know, COVID cases you're working with. From everything that we're seeing, you know, obviously because we have nursing homes, like we have to know when to truly lock everything down. But there are cases that are growing, but the hospitals are learning how to deal with it. And again, everything you hear out in the news, it's exciting. It's amazing. Everything that's happening in the biotech healthcare world, it's leaps and bounds from where it was 10 years ago. And I'm telling you, like, my husband's like, you're such a nerd, stop. Like, why are you, you know, like I'm up at night, I'm like, oh my gosh, this company. And he's like, why do you care? Like, stop. And I'm like, it's so exciting. It's just, once you learn about it and really start putting those puzzles together, I'm like, wow, the reagents for the PCR machine, you know, and he's like, ew, stop, you know. And yes, I do nerd out once in a while, but it's amazing. It's wonderful. You know, the nerds out there, yes, it's like, it's a fantastic world to be in, like right now. And I'm like, oh, wow, look at what they found. Oh, look, the human genome's all over the internet. Oh my gosh. And he's like, ew, you know, he just like, was like, quit it. But you know, look out there and watch what's happening in the news in terms of healthcare. You guys are in an amazing spot. Okay, and you guys can talk business. You're good to go. Okay, all right, guys. You guys take care, okay?
Thank you so
Awesome.
much.
Thank you.
Be positive and keep that light out there, okay? Bye. Oh, look, Victoria, shout out. Say hi, Victoria. You guys, we have 5 kids. That's why if you see some funniness back there, she's number 4. We have 4 daughters and baby boys, so there's big birds. So, and also have a social life, have a love life, go find it. And don't be those like, I'm never gonna get married. Go have 5 kids. They're good. And it's never too early to have one. Like people are like, oh, when's a good time to have it? You know, there's never a right time. It's not like, oh, I'm gonna have a job. I'm gonna go and like, you know, get this job and make $100,000 but have a kid. It doesn't work that way. You just, you know, somebody's gonna call you and be like, oh, remember the other day? It's a good time still. Okay, guys, take care. Bye.
Thank you so much. Okay. So thank you guys for joining us. All I'm going to ask is before we get going is that you sign in, put in that Google Drive. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and throw this back in here, down at the bottom. Make sure you sign in and then I will send out that thing. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a wonderful night.
Just one question.
Yeah.
Are you going to post the recording?
Yes.